It's alive! It's alive! Woo. Okay. Hi, I'm Rob from the Bobsphere. And, oh, what a gleam. Okay, anyway. And today, we're going to have a single book review. I don't do that often. Today I felt I should, being Halloween next week, or this week actually, being Halloween this week and everything. My yearly spooky book. And that's Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Wait, I think a Frankencat coming here. Yeah, she's sniffing the periphery of the table. And she's balancing between the table and the dinner table. And there she is. Yes, okay. Very good. You have to go today. Okay. Oh, off. No. Okay. Anyway, so written in 1818 and revised in 1831, Frankenstein was the result of a bet between Mary Shelley, her husband, Bessie Shelley, if I am pronouncing the name correctly, Lord Byron, and his mistress Claire. And they bet that they could write a ghost story. This is the result. Also, it was fueled by a nightmare that Mary Shelley had of one of her, not a miscarriage, one of her babies died, and she imagined it coming back to life. Anyway, so what's the book about? Okay, Frankenstein, which is the name of the scientist, is obsessed with natural science, and one day he gets this thought that comes in his head, and he wonders if he could resuscitate a dead person. So he creates a kind of homunculus, man out of other dead people. And yes, he resurrects him. The monster escapes. And then we find out that the monster hides in, I wouldn't say a town really. Actually, he hides in the woods and he sees a house. And there he acquires language and manners, and even he starts learning how to love. He tries to associate himself with this family that he watches from a distance, and it fails. And then he starts realizing that he's a perversion of nature. So he sets out to kill Frankenstein and everyone connected to him. He meets Frankenstein, then he wants Frankenstein to create a bride. Frankenstein refuses. Well, he tries to, but then finally his moral conduct. He starts realizing that it's an immoral thing. He starts feeling guilty. Then Frankenstein decides to kill the monster. And this ends up in the North Pole, where Frankenstein meets an explorer, goes on a ship, and as soon as he's about to die, the explorer and Frankenstein's monster meet, and Frankenstein dies, and that's it. Okay, it seems simple, but it is far from that. This is a very complex book. Let's go into it. First of all, the structure. Okay, the structure is something that always amazed me, even when I read it when I was 16 years old. Anyway, okay, it starts off actually as a letter, and it's the explorer who meets Frankenstein's monster first, and then Frankenstein trailing after. Then we jump to Frankenstein's tale, and then further within we go into the monster's tale. Then after we close things up, then we go back to Frankenstein and we end with the explorer. That kind of, it's a kind of mirror thing, like Cloud Atlas. It's the same thing. Obviously, Cloud Atlas came much later. If you know any other books with the structure, do tell me, because that's the only one that's coming to mind. But anyway, this was 1818. That's experimental. Now, but the themes, definitely man against nature, man against science, sorry. What is dead should stay dead. What are the limits of science? And this obsesses Frankenstein. Obviously, he created a kind of perversion of nature by resurrecting the dead when it should stay dead. And even Frankenstein's monster realizes this. He should not exist. And I think that's brilliant. This is a creature who knows that he has no place on this earth, and he feels really angry about it. That's why he wants a partner, so there could be kind of two creatures living together in solitude. Because that's his plan. But it wasn't to be. But I still think it's great. And then there is also kind of language acquisition. And I think that's a really cool thing. Frankenstein, when he runs off into the woods, has no knowledge of English. He knows nothing. He doesn't know how to read. And slowly, slowly, he starts acquiring these skills. And soon as he does, he becomes more knowledgeable. He becomes smarter. And he becomes even more eloquent. In fact, his section of the book is really well written. I mean, you would think it's a polite gentleman talking, not this creature made out of dead people. And I think it's genius the way she mixes kind of philosophy with science. And then we've got an updated version of Frankenstein. This is by Jeanette Winterson, and this is Frankenstein. Okay, in that book, it talks about the creation of Frankenstein. Okay, that's good, we know that. But then it says, who are the modern Frankensteins? Who are the modern scientists? And Jeanette Winterson's theory is that it's AI. And it makes sense. When you create a robot, it is also a dead being, and also needs a charge of electricity, like Frankenstein's monster needs to actually get it to move. And over time, an algorithm does actually improve. So what can start out basic will grow, and it's quite, I think that's fascinating. So AI is the modern Frankenstein's monster. Okay, this is just a 7-minute video, so it's not that deep. But I felt like, I feel like it had to be done. Okay, so have you read this book? And have you read this book? And what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Tell me, subscribe, leave comments, the usual. Bye, and see you next time. I can tell you, next video will probably be a wrap-up, and I am thinking of doing a non-fiction November, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me. Later.